Hello, friends. This is Dave Hurwitz, executive editor at ClassicsToday.com. In our last episode, we talked about the art of James Levine on Deutsche Grammophon. 23 spotty CDs, as I called them, a genuine mixed bag. Well, if that set was spotty, then Neville Marriner, the London recordings on Capriccio, is striped. You know, the Levine set had a level of performance that was always very good, but the performances themselves, the interpretations, had varying degrees of interest, shall we say. Well, this set is far more clearly divided into stuff which is really first-rate and stuff which is simply dreadful. And there's virtually nothing in between. It's really kind of fun because it's so clear-cut, really. There are 14 CDs in this box, and this is one of two. One box has the Capriccio recordings done with the Academy of St. Martin in the Fields. The other, which we will consider separately, has the recordings he made in Stuttgart. Marriner, just to recapitulate a little bit, in addition to the Academy of St. Martin in the Fields, developed such a career for himself, such a cachet, that he began, like so many chamber orchestra guys do, and baroque people and all that stuff, he began to conduct normal symphony orchestras, doing romantic repertoire. Now, Marriner certainly knew the romantic repertoire. I mean, he was a violinist, he played all this stuff, but personally, interpretively, he was a classicist. He was a baroque guy. He was a chamber orchestra guy. He did not have the emotional expansiveness, the spontaneity, the craziness, the subjectivity, all of those qualities that you need in order to perform late romantic repertoire. He just didn't have it. But somebody never told him that. Or if they did tell him that, by the time he made these recordings for Capriccio, he was so full of himself. And I think maybe the scarf is a clue. By the time they get to the scarf period, they're usually beyond help, honestly. As soon as the scarf goes on, the brain shuts off and self-criticism flies out the window, because only somebody who is absolutely convinced of their own invincibility, their own infallibility, would wear a scarf like that one. Yeah. So I guess at this point, nobody cared. And the Academy of St. Martin in the Fields, it was a giant chamber orchestra with a giant scarf around it, too. Why? Because wait till you see what's on here. There's stuff on here they had no business playing. They were a chamber orchestra, but they were a pickup ensemble. Fundamentally, you could get as many hired hands, and according to the London system, where you play per gig, and you've just got this enormous pool of players. So, I mean, he could have done the Girl Leader if he wanted to with the Academy of St. Martin in the Fields. Remember, he did the Respighi tone poems, the worst recording of them ever in the history of humanity, but he did them. He did a Beethoven cycle. I mean, he did Beethoven's Ninth. Things that require larger forces. He had no trouble putting them together by hiring a few extras. That did not make them, however, a great orchestra or an idiomatic orchestra in the repertoire. So let's see what's in here. I'm deliberately keeping it a secret because it gets weirder as it goes. It really does. But I have some samples to play you because I can do that for Capriccio, and you'll see the good versus the utterly wretched. So good, Henry Purcell, opera suites. Come on, this is Academy of St. Martin in the Fields and Marriner, meat and potatoes stuff. You get the Fairy Queen, lots of the Fairy Queen, and Diocletian and King Arthur. It's lovely, absolutely lovely, attractive, a wonderful disc. Disc 2. William Boyce. We just did a talk on William Boyce. He only recorded the Boyce symphonies like three times. Who knows? I think 3 times. He does them beautifully. The performances are charming and delightful and delicious and lovely and all of that stuff. Nothing not to like. Disc 3. a fabulous disc, really first-class disc of Mendelssohn overtures, and not all the usual ones. That's what's so great about this disc. You don't get the Midsummer Night's Dream overture. What you get is Paulus, the prelude or the overture, the Wedding of Camacho, the opera, and you get Ruy Blas, and you get Die Heimkehr aus der Fremde. This is a song opera, essentially a musical that Mendelssohn wrote for home performance for his parents, I think, for their anniversary or something. It's a lovely work. It really is. It ought to be better known. And you get the trumpet overture, the overture in C called the trumpet overture, which is odd because there's nothing special in it at all about the trumpet writing, and the wind overture, which is wonderful for wind ensemble with lots of trashy percussion. It's wonderful. It shows that Mendelssohn could be vulgar when he really put his mind to it. And let's see, what do we get? The Fair Melusine, and we get Calm Sea and Prosperous Voyage to conclude. I want to play you a bit of the trumpet overture. I love the trumpet overture, aka overture in C. I mean, they have to call it something. Otherwise, you would never know. It's a wonderful, wonderful work that Mendelssohn never published. I have no idea why. I love it. I think it's one of his best orchestral pieces. Here is the opening, superbly played by Neville Marriner and the Academy of St. Martin in the Fields on this terrific disc. That's the kind of thing Marriner ought to be doing. It's perfect for him. You know, the emotional temperature is not that high, but it's still fabulously great music. I mean, you don't listen to everything to be, pilloried to the depths of your emotional subconscious. I mean, some music you just listen to because it's great music, it's tuneful, it's cheerful, it's pleasant, it's moving, it's delightful. So that is a great disc. And then we get to disc number 4. It's music from Giselle by Adam, and it's quite well done. Quite well done. You'd be amazed because French music always has that touch of poise, I would call it, that classical poise, the refinement, the surface sheen. All of those things are things that Marriner could do extremely well. French music comes off well when you bring to it superb playing. You don't need to have philosophical depth to do as Giselle, for example. And then we have a wonderful disc of Massenet ballet suites. Again, I talked about Massenet being fluff, but very good fluff. You get Le Cid, you get Cendrillon, Cinderella, and you get Thais. And this is wonderful, wonderful ballet music, and it's extremely well done. It's the kind of thing that Marriner should be able to do well, and he does, because he has very high standards of execution, and he doesn't have to probe the depths of human suffering at all. So then we get CD6. It's an Elgar disc. The Enigma Variations, the Wand of Youth Suites 1 and 2. The Wand of Youth Suites are marvelous. The Enigma Variations, well, now we're starting to get into the more more probing romantic repertoire. It's a clean, decent performance without a lot of memorability. That's the bottom line. It doesn't have anything particularly noteworthy about it, but there's nothing wrong with it either. Well, discs 7 and 8. Here we go. Dvořák, Symphonies 7, 8, and 9, and the Carnival and Othello overtures. Now, Marriner, he felt something for this music because he redid Symphony 7, 8, and 9 in Minneapolis or Minnesota or wherever he went for Phillips for that brief period. He didn't do them very well then. He does them okay here. There's so much mediocre Dvořák. And Dvořák is so lovely and tuneful, you kind of enjoy it anyway. But this is not, by any stretch of the imagination, compelling Dvořák playing. It's adequate. And that is as far as I'm going to go with it. But then, CDs 9 through 14. Now we get to it. He did the complete Tchaikovsky symphonies. I kid you not. With the Academy of St. Martin in the Fields. Holy crap. What a catastrophe this is. This is the lamest, dullest, coldest, most passionless Tchaikovsky you have ever heard in your life. You get, you get the symphonies and you get other things that oh my God, the Capriccio Italienne, and you get Romeo and Juliet, and you get the 1812 Overture. Oh God, the 1812 Overture. And you get the March Slav. They are the most boring performances you've ever heard in your life. But the worst, the absolute pièce de résistance is Francesca da Rimini. Oh my God, that's the Tchaikovsky tone poem that most people blow. Even people who are very, very good with Tchaikovsky tone poems. Nobody is hysterical enough where it needs to be hysterical. Everybody slows down too much for this central episode. Marriner does everything wrong. Everything possible. Again, always with neat, clean, precise playing, but no sense of character, of energy, I have to play you a little bit of this. It is such a riot. The conclusion of Francesca, it's going nuts. You have this coda where the cymbals are going and the bass drum is going, and you have all these syncopations in the brass. It's all going crazy. It's hell, for heaven's sake. It's hell. And then the end, where you've got cymbals and tam-tam going whack, whack, crash, pow, smash, crash. I mean, even the timpani roll at the end here is lame. How do you screw up a triple forte or fortissimo timpani roll? I mean, they managed to do it. It's an achievement, I tell you. But the fascinating thing about this coda is that the louder and theoretically more exciting it's supposed to get, the duller Marriner is. The more he pulls in the reins to make sure he's getting nice, clean rhythm. You could practically hear them tapping their toes to those syncopations at the end. Here it is. Just listen and weep for the wrong reasons. Putrid. Horrendous. Absolutely awful. What persuaded this man to do a Tchaikovsky cycle? I mean, I can't even understand it. But I will say one thing about this box. If you get the whole box, and it's very inexpensive, you really have, in a nutshell, everything that Marriner could and couldn't do. It is the perfect capsule that illustrates his strengths and weaknesses with no apologies for either. None whatsoever. So there it is. Fortunately, the good stuff has always been available separately, and I think most of it still is. A Void Like Death, the Dvořák and Tchaikovsky especially. Oh my God. So keep on listening, folks. Thank you for joining me. Take care.